Okay, there we go. की चोट पे खड़े होकर बताएंगे, मस्जिद के स्पीकर में खड़े होकर बताएंगे कि Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I am Mahleej, your host, and welcome to our channel. You guys are watching me on Facebook. You guys are watching us on YouTube, and we are also so I've started a space. If you are on Twitter, you can join us through there. If you're new here, please join this channel. Subscribe, and please share today's video. You can like and show your support through being here. I have we're going to be talking, as you can see by the title, we're going to be talking about the Iran revolution protest. We've heard a lot about in the news. Something is happening big in Iran. Some people know what is exactly happening. Some people have no idea. So I have invited a few people that are from Iran. I think it's better that we hear these people, because I know mainstream media tells you news and stuff, but you can't really trust the mainstream media. So I've got people that are from Iran that are involved in these protests, in this revolution, and they're actually in Canada. So let me bring on everybody that is here. I have Sia with me, Sia Varsufi, Salman Sima with me, and Daniel also decided to join us. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Hi, doing well.
I hope you
Not
guys
from Iran. Sorry, I'll clarify. I'm the one who's not from Iran. The other two are pure
yes,
Iranian.
yes, Sia and Salman are from Iran, and Danielle is our Canadian, but we are all Canadian. So they're going to give you a little perspective of what is happening. Whoever wants to go first. So my first question is to just give people the background, what started all these protests and what was the event that led to it. So who wants to go first? Salman? Sia, can you hear me?
Go first.
Sia, you're muted.
Go first.
I think Sia starts off.
You're mute, Sia. You gotta unmute yourself, yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. There was this girl named Mahsa Amini, and she was a Kurdish girl. She traveled to Tehran with her family, and she was out with friends and her brother. And the morality police, or literal translation would be the guidance patrol, stops her, arrests her, beats her brother who's objecting, arrests her, puts her in a van. In the van, her and a few other girls object, basically complain, and they beat them. They beat her hard. And according to a person in the van, she basically got quiet and kind of very weak. And as they get into the police station, they go through another beating, and then she's getting worse and worse. The girls start complaining, calling on the police to help. She's losing color. She's passing out. Nobody cares. They come and beat them again for complaining. And then she passes out. And then they call the ambulance. It comes about 25 minutes later. They get her to the hospital. About like a few hours later, 6 hours, I think, later, the father goes to the hospital, and they tell him that you should just pray, and she's brain dead. And they claim that it was a heart attack, but there were so many witnesses that said no, she got beat, and she was beaten in the head. And they said it was because she already had a history of brain surgery. And the father came out and said, no, she's never been under any surgery. And that basically triggered the protests. Initially, it was a call to mourning by Prince Reza Pahlavi and Queen Farah. And then there were some protests in Kurdistan province in Iran. And gradually, in a few days, it started to spread to universities and then everywhere. And then the videos came out that women were taking off their hijab and people were fighting the police. And that went out like wildfire. So it just gave power to everybody that maybe this is it. So everybody started to just go after the police, basically not run away, and that's how it all began, I think.
So she was
A lot of
accused, like,
detail because I just did her profile on Iran Prison Atlas, so I had all the details. But yeah,
okay, so you're saying that when they arrested her, people saw her actually being assaulted? Because I've been watching a lot of videos of
yes.
these people when they're getting arrested. They're like really brutal, even with the women hitting their head and all that. Okay, so there was another woman that was killed, and like roughly when did all this start? Like timeline wise, it was like a week ago.
Yeah, about a week ago. I would say about 8 days ago, Salma. Yeah, and
Yes, 8 days ago.
yeah, and there's been many killed. That girl Hadith was just somebody that caught the attention of the media because they mistook her for the girl who was wrapping her hair, but it wasn't. And because that was such a awesome scene, a girl getting ready to go face the police, and then they thought she was killed, but she wasn't. The girl who wrapped her hair actually sent a message, said it wasn't me, but I'm not dead, but we're not going to be scared with these things.
So there was only one girl that died. Like the other one that they were saying that was not the right news.
Oh, no,
Is that
no.
what you're saying?
At the time, only Massa died. Then, during the protests, dozens have been killed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let me go to Seema and tell us a little bit about what is the situation right now and what do you think this is going to fold into?
So, situation is simple and complicated at the same time. Simple because we have two sides, people against the corrupt and brutal regime, and complicated because all the regime's lobby, they are playing their role, and all the fake news media, they don't cover the true story. And this is a revolution. This is not just a protest against hijab police or morality police. This is not just a simple protest against corruption or just simple protest against increasing the price. No, this is the protest. This protest has roots, and after November 2019, this is another level of protest. You can see the video. There are lots of video that people are defending themselves. And in my opinion, people of Iran, those brave people who are on the street and fighting with the regime, they have every right. They have every right in any form, any shape, any form, however they want, however they think that it is true, defend themselves. And you can see that if I'm gonna compare it to U.S. politics, this is a new page in our uprising in Iran that people of Iran all are using their Second Amendment rights. I I don't mean that just gun. I mean that they are defending themselves in front of the brutal regime, and this is not just about women's right. This is not just about hijab. This is about the system. This is about the whole mullahs and the entire system. And I'm so hopeful. I'm so hopeful, and regime is so confused, and they are killing people. They are trying to shut down the internet. But I do believe in freedom, and I just not pray for Iran. Pray for Iran doesn't solve anything. Act for Iran. You know that. Act for the people of Iran. Do
Yeah.
something which is meaningful.
So I have a question because like I'm from Pakistan, so apparently that is also in the name of Islam, that country, and then your country is also run by this apparently the Islamic law or Sharia law, you can say it, but we still see a little difference, between Iran and Pakistan. So How long has it been that you guys have been under this? And I understand, Sia, you were a political prisoner back in Iran. So if you
Oh
want
yeah,
to touch a little
Salman.
bit on
Salman
that,
is a much more hardcore political prisoner than anybody.
yes.
He's
So
been
yeah,
he's been in solitary more than I've been in prison. Let's just put it that way.
okay. So
Anyways,
I would
but
like to hear a little bit of your experience from both of you, so people get the background, like what exactly is happening
yeah,
in
I'm gonna
Iran.
give
Like
you a
I
little bit
am
of a
a process.
history on where this regime, the whole thing. Basically, Iran was on a very fast path to industrialization, and the society was progressing at a like light speed, to a degree that in 50 years, women who were not allowed to come outside the house and had to wear veils were now like minister of education in less than 50 years. And this
Yeah, yeah,
obviously
just
every
yeah, pardon me, I'm cutting you. Just say that which year, which duration you are talking about.
yeah
Just mention that.
1920s, when Reza Shah came to power in Iran. He took a country which had 10 kilometers of railroad and no factories, no electricity, no school system, nothing. And he just gets to work and gets the example of Turkey a little bit, and starts working and industrializing the country like nobody's business. And he is the one who forced basically men to allow women to come out of the house. And he was the one who removed the hijab in Iran. There was a celebration of Kashf hijab in Iran. He forced first the government officials to bring their wives to the
So
ceremony without hijab.
I have a
And
question. So before that, were the women wearing hijab before he took over? I'm
yeah,
just
where they were
curious.
wearing
Yeah.
burqa, they were not even allowed to come out of the house. Yeah, complete burqa, white thing with the black chador, and they were not allowed to come out of the house. There were no education, nothing. They had no rights.
So
And
that was
he
because I
brought
know if
them.
you go back, sorry, I just want to touch in a
No,
little
go
bit of
ahead.
history because I hear a lot from other people, you like coming from other countries, and they're trying to explain to me, the Iranian history. Because if you go back, my forefathers came from Iran because they were all Zoroastrian. So if you go back, like back in the time, they were all Zoroastrians, but then they were kicked out, and many went to different places. Mine went to India. So I just want to know what was the history like once this Islam came to Iran. Were women
Islam came to
subjugated
Iran.
since then till
Yeah,
1920?
Islam came
Yeah,
to
so
Iran
please go ahead.
in about 700 something. Uh, yeah, about 50 years after the Prophet, the Omar, at the time of Omar. They conquered Iran. The Sassanid Empire was very weak from 500, 1,000 year war with the Romans. And it was very weak. It was very fundamentalist Zoroastrian, actually. And so when the outside horde came, they just defeated them. And Sassanid Empire fell for about 800, 900 years. We don't have technically a country named Iran. We have different, basically smaller areas, fiefdoms, or basically small kingdoms. There are times that basically some Iranian force comes out, like Daylamis, like Sistanis, Lays, and others, who take over the whole area and even defeat the caliphs. But overall, there is no country named Iran. First time you have the country named Iran is after the Mongolian horde has been dissolved into the population. They've come and they've been dissolved into the population. And you have Safavis, who are Turks in northwest of Iran, who decided to basically unite the country. They unite the whole country. And in opposition to Ottoman Empire, that was Sunni empire, they forced the country kind of with sword to turn Shiite. Iran already had a Shiite population, but they forced the whole country to become Shiite as a different identity to Ottomans. So that's around like 800, 900 AD when Iran forms again as a nation state. We have Iran. And then after Safavids, you have a few small dynasties, and then you have Qajar dynasty, which was before Reza Shah, which was very fundamentalist, uneducated, really like basically they sold the country. They would sell parts of the country for money for trips to Europe. The last king of Qajar, when they tell him to come back because Reza Shah is taking power, he says, I would rather wash dishes in Paris than be the king of Iran. That's a direct quote. So Reza Shah takes control of a country that of it rather wash dishes in Paris, as he says. And he turns this country into this modern, basically really fast-growing nation. After World War II, he is removed because he was friendly with Germany a little bit and refused to send out, basically to evacuate the German experts that were helping building roads and stuff. So they removed him in the Tehran conference between Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin. It was a Tehran conference in 1943 when they realized they're going to win the war. They had a conference in Tehran. Reza Shah was removed, and his son, basically, after a lot of discussions, and they wanted to turn it into a republic, but there were some very smart people who turned it into, no, we need a monarchy. So they put his son in his place. And his son also continued reforms, massive reforms. He brought women's rights to vote, women's equal rights in every way. He removed feudalism. He basically divided the land between the peasants, took it from the feudal lords. And he basically, at the time of the revolution, Iran's economic growth was around 3 times of South Korea at the time of the revolution. And Iran had oil, had second largest gas resource in the world, and a huge population. So this country was going to be a power. And then because of the fast-growing society, when society becomes too modern, religion becomes fearful, because religion loses grip on society. Just like in Renaissance, when as a result of Renaissance, you had the Inquisition, in Iran, the religious fundamentalists got afraid, and the traditional market got afraid. They got together and started basically with the socialists, with the help of socialists, who are always happy to have a revolution. They got together and they decided, no, we need another method of government. But people were not joining. So they promised free gas, free oil, free electricity, free water. And Khomeini was so uneducated that he actually said the GDP of Iran is 75 tumans. They should pay you this. They don't. He didn't know what GDP was. He actually thought it's the money that there is somewhere and you're supposed to pay it. That's the guy. 2 years after the revolution, if you had Khomeini's recordings from before the revolution, you would get the death sentence. 2 years after the revolution. If you had Khomeini's recordings of his promises, you would get the death sentence. That's how embarrassing they are. And that's how they got the revolution going. I'm sorry I went too long, but I think I covered the whole history.
Yeah, no, that's good. You know what? Because I hear from so many people, so many different stories coming out from other people that are not from Iran, right? So I don't know much of the history, like whatever I know. So I think it's better that you guys tell it. So do tell us why, because I know, Seema, I'll go to you and then I'll come back to Sia again. So yes, tell us your experience. Why were you a political prisoner in Iran? And a little bit about your history.
Your mic. Salman.
You're mute. Yeah.
I can hear you properly.
Can you hear me now? Can
Oh,
can you hear me now or no?
I can
There,
tell you someone's story if you want.
Yeah, I mean,
there
it's
is
you know,
there
someone's
is some
story.
noise. There is some noise in your voice. May you please repeat your question?
Sia, do you want to repeat the question for me? Because I guess
She
my
asked
voice is not clear.
she asked you to tell your story and your basically political activism story and what happened that you got here.
So if I'm gonna say that in one word, in one sentence, I had a student journal in university. They banned my journal. Then I appealed for that. Then they let me another time to have a journal, a student journal. Then they shut down my journal. Then they exiled me. They banned me from education. Then they arrest me once. Then again they ban me from my master. Then they arrest me twice. Then Green Movement happened, the uprising in 2009, and I was soldier. I don't use the word leading. I was helping some students to have a protest, and I was involved in several universities protests, and I organized different universities to have a protest, and they arrested me. They tortured me. They broke my teeth. They broke my ribs, and I went on a hunger strike. They forced to release me on the bail. Then again, they arrest me for the third time. They issue 6 year sentences just for one of my file. Still, I have two open file in the court. I don't know what happened to them, and if they gonna increase my sentence time more than 6 years, then I talk with my friends, with my family, with my lawyer, and they said that you should go or you should go. I said that what? You should go to prison or you should go or you should go out of Iran. Then I decided to be free. It was a hard decision. I can say that it was my hard. It was the hardest decision that I have ever made. But I think it was a right decision as well. Then I escaped from mountains. I went to Turkey, and through UNHCR program, I came to Canada in 2011. Then I'm here.
Yeah, my story is basically the same except with less prison sentence.
But you have
So
lashed
you were
me, I think.
Yeah, I was
speaking
lashed
against
for
the
different. I was lashed for different reasons. I was lashed for walking in the street with a girl, not for political activism. That was when I was
just
19.
walk, just walking with a girl like
It was
lashes.
Ramadan. I should have known.
Well, yeah, you know this Sharia law, right? When I'm talking to people in Sharia law, like if you know about Islam, they used to chop hands, and if you were a thief. So, to what degree do they follow that in Iran? Because I know they don't do that in Pakistan. They don't do lashes and
Well,
stuff.
it depends. Okay, in my case, it was targeted. Like there was a guy who was bothering the girl that I was with, and I went and talked to the guy and told him to f off. Basically, he went, and 5 minutes later, the morality police showed up. And when they were taking us inside the police station, I saw the guy standing on the other side of the road, basically waving at me. And so that was targeted. This usually happens in like cities, mostly like Tehran, or cities that people are more liberal. That's where they really crack down. You have strong presence of morality police and such. And in those cities, yeah, they very much, whenever they see somebody with like their scarves is a little behind Iranian style, I call it, because most women don't want to wear hijabs in Iran. Iranians are very, very not religious compared to the rest of the Middle East. Like Iranians, in the last poll that they took, basically 57% of Iranians said they do not identify as Muslims. So, and that's thanks to the regime. Before,
Wow.
I'm sure it was way higher, like Muslim rate. But Iranians in general will kind of always like a very wishy-washy Islam, like a yes, like I'm a Muslim. I respect my religion. I respect the Prophet. Therefore, I will not drink alcohol on the night of his death. That was like the level of Islam around us.
You know
Like,
what?
I will not
And
drink
this is
alcohol during Ramadan.
when we're discussing this, right? Like, and I see these people from Pakistan and the people that are overseas Pakistanis. I'm sometimes like, I'm wishing that Pakistan goes all the way like Iran regime. Because for people to know exactly what Islam is, I think they have to suffer under that. Because I find that when I meet people from Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, and I know a lot of women from Iran, and they're way more modernized, they're way more open-minded than the people that I meet from Pakistan, you know? So now in Iran, you talk about this morality police. So what is the dress code for women? Like, do they have to cover the hijab? And like, do they have to wear those black long things as well? Or it's just the hijab? They have to cover their hair.
No, it's the hijab, and it shouldn't be something that sticks to your body, really. Your, what do you call it? Your curves should not be showing.
Okay. And this police is like everywhere. They're patrolling all the time. Like, how
Well,
do they catch?
well, obviously they can't be everywhere all the time because Tehran is like 15 million people living in Tehran. So there are certain areas that they know are better for this. So they kind of have nests there. They stay like in Engulab Square. There's always like a yeah. Go ahead, Sam.
Or for example, they have a van and they have a car in front of the subway entrances, in front of the malls, shopping malls, and big area, beautiful parks. They know that people gonna go, for example, to the park for having some enjoyment. People gonna go to park with their girlfriend, with their boyfriend. They try to bother the people, you know that, and they do their best with the limited resources to give bad time and bad feeling to the people, just for not covering their hair or just for having some beautiful face. That's it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting relationship because they know people are not that religious. Okay, they know this. But as a totalitarian regime, every totalitarian regime that you see in history has to have a daily presence in people's lives. So people are reminded every day that, oh, we are under this regime. And for this regime, hijab was the best excuse. So that the police is in your life every day. You think about the police every day when you walk out of the door. Okay? So that was their thing. But because people are not that religious, it's become a cat and mouse thing since 40 years ago. Like they've been arresting women for 40 years and women are still wearing like basically improper hijabs. And that's the thing. They when I was a kid, when I was 5, VCRs were banned in Iran. But
Really?
Iran has 1,000 miles of border with Afghanistan and Pakistan and 1,000 miles border with Iraq and Turkey. You can't control those borders.
And
So,
Sia, even chess was haram, if you
chess
remember.
was even
Chess was
at some
haram.
point. But so VCRs just floated into the country. So after a while, VCR
So
was okay. So
there's
we're
no
going to create.
sports, right, in Iran for women? There's no sports for women in
There are
Iran. Is
some.
there
There
like
are
a
some.
there? Okay,
There
so
are
now
some.
I saw some of the pictures of these girls, and their pictures were obviously without the hijab. So if you had a Facebook and you lived in Iran, can you post your pictures without a hijab and stuff, or is
It
that
could
something
cause
they
a
monitor
problem
as
for
well?
you. It could cause a problem
Yeah.
for you.
I
It
If
could
they
cause
wanted to, it would.
if I'm going
it
to point
it
something out
could
against,
cause the problem, but not necessarily. It depends on how much you are involved
Yeah.
and how do you set your Facebook profile or Instagram, and it depends that in which level you are active. Let me give you some example from my integrator. He said to me that Salman, maybe you pass red light and we arrest you, and maybe you chant against Khamenei, the
It's
leader.
is your interrogator,
Interrogator. Thank you, sir.
intelligence ministry interrogator.
Yeah, from my interrogator. Say it. It's difficult for me to pronounce it.
Okay. Interrogator.
Interrogator. So he told me, maybe you chant against the leader Khamenei. We allow you to chant. Maybe you pass a red light and we arrest you. Does it mean that we arrest you just because of you pass red light? No. Does it mean that we let you to pass a red light? No. I said that, so why you arrest me? He said that any person has a capacity, and he was right. For example, for Salman, they gave 5 points. Okay, if Salman chant against Khamenei, we ignore it. If Salman passed a red light, we ignore it. If Salman said something against leader, we ignore it. But if Salman organized a protest, he reached to his maximum capacity. Sometimes that profile picture in Facebook is a maximum capacity. Sometimes we see that, Sia know that the recent example is Hoda Khatebi, or what was the other girl? Hoda Rostami, I think, the other
Yeah,
girl, where naked, half naked photo, and that they are freely
yeah.
traveling in all over the country. Why? Because they are advocating for regime. They say that no, women choose their hijab. There is no force, and they are lying. They are lobbying. They are regime apologists. If you are regime apologists, being half naked is
But is
acceptable.
that in
It's
Iran
fine.
Media
or outside
Benjamin,
of
even
Iran?
Media
Is that
Benjamin, you can show. Sorry about my language. You can show your titties as long as you are Media Benjamin and you defend the regime. Nothing happened to you. You know that it depends on the level, and it depends on how much you are against regime. That picture, that level that you respect or you do disagree with the hijab can play a role. It depends on which level you are fighting or which level you are appeasing or defending from regime.
can I add and see
so
you
you're
can
saying
correct me?
that, if you're in Iran, these girls are in Iran, like they can wear whatever they want as long as they're speaking their language. That's what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
In every
That,
government
that's
protest, there are a few sex workers. Okay, they are sex workers. If you look at them, you know. And they come out with like long nails and made up, and hijab is over here, and the hair is basically dyed and everything. And you look at it, you go, wow. And they put them in all the photos here and there.
ah.
In all the
False
photos, government
advertising.
photos. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
So
just a moment, Daniel.
yeah. You go
The
first.
best example of what Sia said, it was Qasem Soleimani funeral, and they
Funeral.
show some
Yeah.
I don't know the sex worker or whatever. Yo, even we don't believe to hijab, but we celebrate Qasem Soleimani. We respect to Qasem Soleimani, and hopefully majority of the people we know that they know that they are paid, they are just puppet, or they are working for regime. Yeah, just the example that Sia said, one of the best example was Qasem Soleimani.
yeah, so it's like the same propaganda. Like here, hijab is a choice. Hijab is a choice from the leftist, as long as like they're feeding up their program. So okay, so Daniel, let us know how you are involved in all this. What is going
Yeah,
on
What were
in
you
Iran?
trying to say?
yeah. I was going to add to that. I mean,
I know you
I
cover a lot of Canadian stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I'm a Canadian rabble rouser, but I've been interested in Middle East foreign policy. I'm good friends with Salman and Sia, so I've listened to Sia's histories of Iran quite thoroughly. So I do care about this issue. I don't have a dog in the fight per se, as I'm not Iranian, but I do care about concepts of right and wrong and good and evil. So I work with the National Telegraph, and I've covered this. I was the first one to report and show the evidence that the flight PS 752 was an intentional act of terrorism. Wasn't the hardest thing to prove, but I was the first one to do it. And then a year and a half later, the government or the courts finally got on board. The government's still dragging their feet. But I think there's another thing to point out, sort of to recap what they were saying about the regime. Like,
Sorry, Daniel. Sorry, I want to just ask: is that the flight that was shot down, and
yes,
was it shot down, and a few people were killed? Right? Who
Yeah.
was it shot down by? I'm
it
sorry.
was shot down by the
IRGC.
IRGC. So the IRGC, it is
IRGC is Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
the best example, like a parallel for them, is like how the Nazi Germany, they had the regular army, but they also had the SS, which is like an ideological military force that's separate from the actual army. So that's the IRGC. They're like the SS of the Iranian regime.
It's the ideological army, but they also use the mandatory military service soldiers. So they also have an actual army.
Yeah. So
And
they're the ones who.
What was the reason? Was there a reason given behind it why it was done? Because I kind of heard about it, but I know in the Canadian media it was just like brushed under the rug.
So we can speculate, and I'll retrace the steps, and feel free to interrupt me, see if we get it. Like, so you have to understand the timeline here. So about a week before this is happening, there are riots being ginned up by Iranian proxies. There's multiple Iranian proxies, Hezbollah groups in Iraq outside the American embassy. So you have Iranian proxy terrorists making noise and attacking an American embassy at the time. So in result to this, the Trump administration had found Qasem Soleimani. They knew where he was, and drone striked him. So Qasem Soleimani.
Daniel, just I want to add something. And they killed the American Iraqi contractor. They killed American. Then Trump administration reacted.
Yeah, so an American contractor was killed, and the embassy was under attack. And listen, I don't think that, like I said, the strike of Qasem Soleimani was more significant than Osama bin Laden.
Oh,
and
way more significant.
I mean,
not even close.
Bin Laden might be sexier, but bin Laden's sort of like the head of a hydra, right? Al Qaeda didn't need him as a leader, a good figurehead, but Al Qaeda is one group, right? He was the head of one group, and someone else can take over that. Qasem Soleimani is the head of the Quds Force, which is the foreign arm of the IRGC, was managing dozens of different terrorist groups internationally. So this was like knocking the spider out of the web. So this actually significantly disrupted the capacities of dozens of international terrorist groups to take out this one guy. So best thing Donald Trump ever did for the world was killing this guy.
For you to understand the role of Qasem Soleimani, it's that he was legal. Okay, Bin Laden was hiding. Qasem Soleimani was the representative of the Ayatollah. He was present in every Iraqi Security Council meeting. He was at every time there was protests in Iraq, when there were protests against Iran in Iraq. In their Security Council, Qasem Soleimani was always present. Okay, that's the level that this guy has. He is deciding stuff.
So it wasn't like a hidden thing, It wasn't like it was a hidden thing. Like
it wasn't. It wasn't
out in public.
No, they were promoting him like Che Guevara, and basically he is everywhere. He was the connection. Hezbollah directly contact. Basically, he was the contact for Khamenei directly to Hezbollah, to Hashd al-Shabi in Iraq, to Fatemiyun in Afghanistan, to Hamas, to everybody. He was the guy. When who is it? The Bashar Assad.
Yeah.
It was Qasem Soleimani saving his ass. When he came to Iran, he didn't meet with the foreign minister. He first met with Qasem Soleimani. When Bashar Assad came to Iran to thank Khamenei for saving him, he first met with Qasem Soleimani. And this dude has Iran's oil, billions of dollars behind him, just spreading it out, making it rain for all the terrorists in the region.
So
And taking him out was a big deal.
Literally an arch terrorist mastermind. So the most significant military assassination in world history, or at least in modern history. Maybe you can go back to ancient whatever. But so this is a big deal because the Ayatollah had really pumped this guy up. Sia even told me a story where inside Iran, they were claiming that Qasem Soleimani was so great, like a super ninja assassin. He had left a note on the American president's desk, like, we're going to get you. Like, obviously fake, but he was like
true
a hero.
Story.
Yeah, true story. So he was a hero to the crazy Islamists, right? He was gonna, whip out his guns and literally punch Israel off the map. This is the guy, right? This is the skills. So when Trump took him out, it was a big blow, not just to the terrorist network, but to the ego and the propaganda network of Iran. So big deal. Now, in response to this, the Iranians wanted to retaliate, and this is sort of a lesson in foreign policy where Trump was good and Obama and Biden are bad. But when the Iranians wanted to retaliate and they wanted to shell an American base to show they were getting back at them, there are reports that they actually informed the Americans they were going to attack them beforehand.
Oh, that was known. They literally called the office of the protection of interests, and they told them, we're going to hit this place. We're going to hit the yard. Don't have any soldiers in it. This was basically just to show that, we responded. We attacked an American base, but they called ahead and said, don't be home, please.
Yeah. So this shows that Trump was strong. And this is why they didn't mess with Trump, because they were scared of him. So they did this little show of force, acting like, please don't hurt us. So they did a little cosmetic slap on the wrist to Donald Trump. Now, they realized that Trump wasn't so popular in the mainstream media. So as sort of a useful propaganda tool, the left loves doing this sort of oh no, escalation. Donald Trump got these people killed. So they had this flight, PS-752, and we don't know exactly why they chose it. Now, here are the statistics on what made it likely. There were no Americans on that plane. And there were reports there's some high-level Iranians.
Actually, Daniel, there were a few Americans on that flight. They don't let them get in. This is true. They don't let them get in.
So they stopped the Americans. But the flight was full of Canadians. Now, you have to understand how this regime works and how Canada works. Justin Trudeau was an ally to the Ayatollah. There's no other really way to put it at this point. He came and campaigned on a pro-regime platform in 2015. He's going to reopen the embassy.
But is there a terrorist Justin Trudeau is not involved with around the world?
I mean,
Ayatollah face photos will come out too.
Yeah. So Trudeau, after he was pushing this really friendly Iranian regime platform, the Iranian regime, they kidnapped a Canadian sociology professor, Syed Kafasamani, and suicided him in prison. So murdered him and held his family hostage. This is what they do to their friends, because when Trudeau says, we're going to be your friends, they see this as weakness. So they try and push, how far can we get with this guy? So Trudeau already shown that you can murder Canadians under my watch, and I will do your propaganda for you. There's no consequences, only thumbs up. So there's a plane full of Canadians. Let's make sure there's no Americans off there. And they fired 2 missiles at this plane to knock it down. It's important. 2 missiles from a highly sophisticated weapon system. So this wasn't an accident. So they knocked down that plane. And then all of a sudden the media said, look what Trump did. Because Trump killed Qasem Soleimani, this plane's been knocked down. How could they? And on CBC, they started doing we need, in order to get an investigation to get the bottom of this, we need to reopen the Canadian embassy so we can have talks with Iran. So they got their propaganda win, and Justin Trudeau's Liberals got back to the grindstone and started doing the work of the Ayatollahs. So this is why it's important for Canada and every other country around the world. You could say Argentina, they bombed the AMA center in the 80s. AMIA bombing the community center. Germany, the Mykonos restaurant. So they will kill people internationally. You could say narco-terrorism, the whole shebang they're involved with. But in Canada, we've set such a precedent under Justin Trudeau that you can murder Canadians, and the more Canadians you murder, the better we will treat you. And they understand this, and this is why.
Two things, Daniel. More Canadian was killed in the intentional attack by IRGC in compare with 9/11 by Al Qaeda.
That's a good point. So this is the Canadian Justin Trudeau we're dealing with, and this is sort of where I come in on, like, I guess I'll give the sort of the Western view on Canada Iran relations. Is it's been a utter disaster under Justin Trudeau, and what you see now is actually this movement has sort of, I think, gained steam because it's been able to put this feminist face on it. And Sia and Salman outlined quite clearly, and they're right. This isn't really about feminism. It's not about hijab. It's about 40 years of the Islamic Republic.
People in Iran are chanting, women, everybody, that hijab, literally, that's the chant. Hijab is an excuse. The foundation of the regime is the target.
Hijab, and hijab isn't unrelated. It's a part of it. It's like, but what I'm saying is, as everyone knows, it's what's behind the hijab. It's not the hijab, it's the people enforcing this insane law and why they're enforcing it. And
but before we continue, okay, go ahead.
As a woman, right, I find that even in Pakistan, and it is not like Iran, I still didn't have privileges as a man would have, right? So us women are more subjugated. Like, I'm pretty sure, I don't know how it is in Iran, like if women can just go outside by themselves or late at night. In Pakistan, it's all men late at night at cafes and stuff. So I know you guys are subjugated too, but like we have to do it more. There's more pressure on us.
Absolutely.
So I think that is what it was.
Yeah, I always said I'd never hope to have a girl in Iran because Jesus, it's just
or any Islamic country. It doesn't matter, Iran, any Islamic country.
But that's the thing, though. In Iran, it's the regime that believes, and it's mostly the regime that believes and forces it. Okay, before the regime under Mohammad Reza Shah, basically you had your hijabis, you had your burqas, and you had your discos. Nobody bothered each other. Everybody was happy just doing their own thing. Nobody was like humiliating the other one for saying prayers or going to disco, nothing. So, but in Pakistan, I believe people are also, the percentage of fundamentalism is higher, much higher than Iran probably.
And it should be noted that Iran does, I think, pour a significant amount of money into increasing the fundamentalism in Pakistan. They're not the most.
Talk about Trudeau. Didn't he just come out and condemn all this and gave a statement to Iran, and he's going to have sanctions on them?
Can I address this? I think this is important from a Western perspective, and I think Sia will go into further depth on this. Is we have to understand there are two different types of condemnations of Iran. There are condemnations of Iran that are condemning Iran, and there's a way to condemn Iran to help out the regime. And this is called the reformist scam. So the Iranian regime has created this false reformist group that doesn't exist. You cannot reform the regime. It's a scam that they play for stupid Westerners, or as we call them, respected academics or media anchors. So they play this reformist game where they're like, oh, we're so close to reform. Look, we have a reformist president, Rouhani. Now, a reformist president is someone who sentenced hundreds of people to death. An extremist is thousands, tens of thousands. It's all the same.
Yes. During the Rouhani, he came to the power. At the first year, the number of execution goes up 2 times before.
More than before, yeah.
So
Rouhani was the guy, by the way, fun fact, Rouhani was the guy who imposed mandatory hijab in government buildings. And he was
famous
the first.
Reformist. By the way, famous reformist, Rouhani. Yeah. So my point is, the way Justin Trudeau is condemning the regime, he's doing it in the false reformist thing. He's calling on the regime to launch an investigation into what happened.
Oh, that's a joke. That's a joke. Same investigation that they did with the plane.
The plane.
Yes,
right.
You did okay. You're saying you didn't murder this person. Now, okay, so then you investigate and tell us what you find. It's like, what? How does that work?
Exactly.
And the joke that Justin Trudeau made it, They are literally killing girls and women. Everybody, okay. Uh, Associate Press report that more than 50 people was killed by the regime. Okay, they are shooting bullets in the head of the women, and Justin Trudeau called this harassment. Dude,
Harassing
ha-
women in the
yeah,
street.
harassing women is something that happened in the subway, for example. In the street, yes, the Islamic regime harassing the people, harassing the women, but they are literally killing the people. They killed Mahsa. Do you see that Melanie Joly, the foreign affairs minister,
Yeah.
her first
But true,
statement,
like
she said
I
Mahsa
know he
died.
can.
She
What?
said
Sorry, go
Mahsa
ahead.
died.
Go ahead, Mahleej.
No, with Trudeau, where was it? There was other protests going on and stuff. It's very hypocritical of him to condemn all this when we just know what he did to us, like
The
past December.
truckers, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's condemning. Where was it? Some other place there were like all these
He
protests going
literally
on. And
had women under the hooves of mounted police, and then he dares talking about harassment in another country.
well, that's
Yeah,
because
and I
somebody
will
threw
say,
a
listen,
bicycle. Does somebody threw a bicycle in this much snow? Don't you know that? Yeah, come on.
yeah,
It's
And it was
no, that
cameras
what
recording it.
Daniel described. I call it the coward's butt. Okay, it's basically they go like it started with Salman Rushdie and everything. Salman Rushdie was the first time that Islamism, which started from Iran, basically the modern Islamism, Ayatollah in his home ordered Westerners to behave a certain way, and issued a fatwa on Salman Rushdie, a death fatwa, and Western writers and authors and everybody was like, yeah, that's not right, but he should have expected some backlash. But that wasn't right what he did. That but is the coward's butt. They always go for it. It's the
That
easiest
boils
way
my
out is like,
blood.
yeah, I condemn this, but I mean, you were dressing for it to get
you
raped,
know,
I guess.
Charlie
Like,
Hebdo's cartoons were so offensive. I mean,
yeah,
I wouldn't make cartoons like that. So
yeah.
yeah, a couple lunatics with Kalashnikovs came into the office. What did you expect?
And it's like,
Um,
what do you expect? Like, they're killing women in the streets, and you expect Justin Trudeau like to say what? What can he say? I support this? No. So he does the literal least possible after the
yeah.
level after.
So if you
Actually, let's give some credit to ourselves. And I do remember that Sia was involved. Some of my good friends, Arda Shirzadeh was involved. Daniel was involved in some cases. And we work closely and too hard with James Bezin in October 2017.
Oh, yes.
Hopefully, Canadian Parliament passed the Magnitsky sanction, which targets a human rights violator across the globe. Okay, and just today, Justin Trudeau finally announced that Canada sanctioned the morality police and
Morality police.
morality police and the hijab police in Iran, which is a good step. It should happen a few
good
years
okay
ago,
step.
but still, after we had more than 12,000 gathering in Mallasman Square just 2 nights ago, and after many letters, many the other groups they sent it to Justin Trudeau, and after lots of advocacy, and after Melissa Lansman great speech, and after the unity of Iranian Canadian community, finally Justin Trudeau did something right, and just he said that they gonna sanction Sharia police or morality police, but we don't
But
know
I
that how they gonna implement it. You know that, is it just on the paper, or really they gonna impose it?
I think it's brownie points for him, the virtue signaling that he always does. He found a perfect opportunity because you said it yourself, you guys have been advocating it for a while. So why now? I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to virtue signal and be like, "Oh, what a great person I am," and I'm trying to do
Yeah.
this for. And we don't know if he's gonna do it. He says a lot of things he doesn't do it. Half of them. But
And don't get it twisted. The only
yeah,
reason that the Western politicians and leftists care about this is not that it was women, it's that it got to TikTok. It became popularized. Okay? It got to popular culture. So now everybody will look at feminists and be like, why are you silent again? Because
So,
the
can I give a
feminists have
plug?
been silent about Iranian women's protests for decades. There's been other protests, nothing. But
Yeah, can I
this
give a
one,
plug?
because it got to TikTok, it got to popular culture, and now they
Yeah,
just have to
the
go.
Okay, I'm gonna
feminist.
have to interrupt. I guess there was self-promotion. I literally just wrote an article this week called Masha Amani, The Failure of Feminist Foreign Policy. As I go through all these people and institutions who promote feminist foreign policy, the leading scholars in feminist foreign policy, the founders, the Center for Feminist Foreign Policy, has not said a word on Masha Amani. Not one word. The first act of feminist foreign policy of Sweden's government was to send a bunch of feminists in their
I
hijab
was mentioning that.
okay, you can take it away. But this is the very first act of official feminist foreign policy, was to literally bow down to Iran.
World's first feminist government. The
Yeah.
first trip they went to Iran, all wore their nice scarves, bowing their head in front of Rouhani. We are feminists. We are very strong and powerful women from the West. Now, please, master, these are
that's like,
feminists.
remember Kathleen Wynne when she went to
Yes.
the mosque,
They
and I think she was
made her
on her
sit in the
Sit in the
corner
back.
like a woman should. Yeah. Yeah.
For people
Okay,
who
so
aren't in Canada,
I have
I'll just
this
say Kathleen
question.
Wynne was our premier, so like the governor, like the head of Ontario was made to
Yeah.
sit in the back of a mosque.
She went to a mosque and the men were like, woman, go sit in the corner like you should.
Literally.
So, Mahleej, Sia,
I
and
have one
Daniel,
question.
just
Yeah, go ahead.
at in 4 minutes, I have another meeting and I have to go. Just this.
Okay. Do you want to say
Okay.
anything? I'll give you this opportunity to finish up.
Yeah, we had a great gathering in Toronto last Saturday. It was huge. More than 12,000 people showed up, and we are organizing even a bigger protest, a bigger gathering in solidarity with Mahsa Amini and in supporting Iran revolution. Guys, listener, viewer, audience, it's not just a protest. It's a revolution. Mark it on your calendar. North York, Toronto, Mallasman Square, October 1st, 6 o'clock up to 7:30. It's gonna be a huge solidarity. The event gonna be
Huge.
bi-language. Pardon
It's
me?
gonna be tremendous.
Yeah, tremendous solidarity with my fellow Iranian. And
That's by
I
Young
do,
and Shepherd, right? Is that where it is?
yeah.
It's
North York
Between Young and
Station.
Shepherd and Young
Yeah,
and
there is a subway station.
North York
Just
Center
get up.
Station.
Yeah,
North York Center subway station.
North York Center subway station. It's a very easy place to communicate. And see you all there. I am here just for 1 minute. I listening, and goodbye, Sia. Goodbye, Mahleej. Thank you for the opportunity. And goodbye,
So much.
Daniel. Sia, hold the line.
We'll see you Saturday.
Gotcha.
Thank you so much for your time. So yes, well, I just had one quick question, Sia, for you. My mom was telling me about this. I don't know how true this is, because she was saying that the Zoroastrian women don't have to cover their head in Iran. Is that true?
Yeah, they do.
They do?
Like they don't. Okay, they don't bother them as much,
Okay.
but preferably they do, because otherwise they could be harassed and they have to prove that they're Zoroastrian and stuff. Okay,
But do they
just
have
like
more rights? The Zoroastrians that are there. I don't know what population of Zoroastrians are left in Iran, but are they are they okay to like worship and do all
look,
that? Is there any sanctions
Iran
on them?
had all sorts of minorities, and now it has very little of them. Okay, because officially, yes, they are recognized in the constitution, the Sharia
Mm-hmm.
constitution, whatever that is. But they are under very strong monitor. And like the Jewish community in Iran, when the revolution happened, Iran had I think one of the largest Jewish communities in the world, in Asia for sure. It was
This
the
largest in
biggest.
the Middle East.
100,000
Outside
Jews
Israel.
were living in Iran. And now it's about like 8,000 to, by some measures, like 20,000.
Wow, that's
So,
it.
yeah. But yeah, they officially have rights, but who has rights in Iran for them to have rights? It's like, it's a joke.
Yeah, I think that there's something I want to point out about what Sia and Solomon said, and add another layer to the and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but they outlined sort of what can you get away with. Well, if you're a career regime apologist who does good Western propaganda, dance around with your tits out and show look how progressive Iran is because it serves a narrative, right? If you're a hijabi, but you're like, I support my brothers in freedom, well, you're going to get whacked. But there's another level to a totalitarian state because this is like Orwellian ISIS. And Sia outlined in his story is there's also a functioning totalitarian state for sociopaths to say, I can use this system to tattle on the people I don't like. So I want that girl. There's a boy with the girl. He told me to F off. Well, I'm going to call the police and get them both arrested. So it becomes like this sociopath paradise where, you know what? I might not be a hardcore fundamentalist Islamist, but I'm a bit of a sadist. And I
But
like
I
getting
can do well in this system. Yeah.
I can do well in the system, right? So Iran is officially a theocracy. It's run by a bunch of religious lunatics, but it does function as a kleptocracy. It's people getting to
No,
power.
it's absolutely a kleptocracy. Like low level official. For you to understand the level of stealing, okay, a deputy, like like the second guy at one of the offices of a ministry in one province, okay, like this ministry has an office in this province. The main guy, his deputy, okay, following,
Yeah.
he embezzled about like dozens of millions of dollars. Like at that
Sounds like
low
Pakistan.
level,
It
at
sounds
that
just
low,
like Pakistan.
at that level, he embezzled like millions of dollars. Now go up, go 1 level, 2 level, 5 level, 10 level up, and see where you end up. Iran,
It's the
at the
same thing
time
with
when,
us.
during the first oil boom, when the oil reached $100 during Ahmadinejad's time,
Yeah.
during that time, Saudi Arabia accumulated about $1 billion, $1 trillion, 600 to $1 trillion in its reserve national fund. Okay, 600 billion, I think. Yeah, that was the exact number. Over time, it became $1 trillion. 600 billion in that 3 years, 4 years. Iran, on paper, should have accumulated about 300 billion in that time. When that time ended, there was $15 billion in Iran's funds.
So that's 285
Where did the
million.
rest go?
It's
Wow.
You know, Lebanon, Hezbollah's war with Israel's 30-something day war.
In 2006.
Yeah. There was a war between Hezbollah and Israel. Iran basically is building like a missile manufacturing companies, Lebanon and whatever. After this war, south of Lebanon was completely demolished. It was rebuilt in 6 months by Hezbollah, not by the Lebanese government, by Hezbollah. And Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, calls Khamenei his leader his master. And he openly said, like, Hassan Nasrallah used to come on TV and say, no, we just get moral support from Iran. And then one time, Khamenei actually in one speech said, yes, we give Hezbollah money, we give them weapons. What are you going to do? And the next day, Hezbollah came on TV and said, yeah, we didn't want to say, but everything we have from Iran. Everything we have from Iran.
So I'll point out
So-
the main slogan of the 2019 protests essentially was like, no to Lebanon, no to Syria, no to Palestine, my life for Iran, which is the Iranian people saying, like, enough with the state sponsoring terrorism nonsense. Like, stop giving our money to Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. Like, this doesn't help us in one bit. And that's what and I think it's good to tie back to the point we're getting to. That slogan isn't sexy to the West. It's good for me and maybe some people in here saying, like, oh, the Iranian people are actually saying no to terrorism.
Oh, that's one of the most popular chants in every city. Over 100 cities has been chanting this. 2019 and this one. No na Gaza, na Lebanon, janam fadai Iran. No to Gaza, no to Lebanon, my life for Iran.
Yeah, and so that's very hard to sell to a Western elitist mainstream audience. That doesn't make it on the CBC. They mistranslate that one intentionally or leave it out. But this narrative of Masha Amani, young woman beaten by the morality police, killed by the patriarchy, now the women are uprising, girl power. Whereas we've outlined it's about much more than that. But this is the real danger to the regime now, is Sia said, this gets on TikTok. This is a narrative simple enough that Mark Ruffalo, Roger Waters, Susan Sarandon, 3 people who have been career regime apologists, not because they apologize to the regime, because they're very stupid. And they're actors and they're distracted by something shiny.
See what we have to do to basically circumnavigate these fuckers.
Exactly. But this narrative is so powerful to the Western market because this narrative, it already fits into a Western story that we can immediately contextualize. We go, oh, women uprising against patriarchy, morality, police. Like, so Justin Trudeau can't support them. He has to do something to assuage it.
Yeah.
There is no justifying it. There is no but.
There's no but.
No, it's a woman getting beaten in the head enough that she dies. So they can't really.
I know, Sia, but there are people.
Oh yeah.
Believe me, there are people that come and they're like,
Islamists.
It's like.
No, but
that's where I wanted to get.
Okay, yeah. So let's get to
ahead,
the enemies here. Let's get to the enemies. Is the people justifying this? There's like 3 sets of people who are like siding with the regime right now. 2 of them are the big problem. They're the hardcore Islamists who are like, well, yeah, you need hijab or else the world's going to end. And how do we destroy Israel if you're not wearing your hijab? They're crazy, right? But we need to sort of isolate. These are the hardline supporters of the regime. Then there's the people with communism in their bio and like just what depraved levels the communists will go to institute the communist utopia. They don't care about anything. They're like, they don't care about mass murder. They just want
anything against the United States means it's a good thing.
Yes.
So they will ally themselves with North Korea, with Iran, with anybody who just hates the United States.
And then you have a few far-right, crazy, reflexive conspiracy theorists will just be like, well, Iran's allied with Russia, so this is just a conspiracy. It was the vaccine that killed her. She died of a heart attack. This is a psyop. But like, those people are just like anti-interventionist lunatics. They're not really defending the regime. They're just being insane. So you have,
and to be fair, in this revolution, we don't want really intervention, okay?
Yeah.
Because we have, like, believe it or not, Iranians in Iran know what's going on. Like, you don't understand. Every time Trudeau does some dumb shit, I get messages from Iran. What the hell is wrong with this guy? Like, literally, one of our friends told Salman, it was like, Salman said, yeah, you should basically, hope you guys free the streets of Tehran, free Tehran. And the guy said, we'll free Tehran. You guys get busy freeing Toronto. It's like, they know what's going on. And that we don't want intervention because every time there's been intervention, they messed it up. They've messed up big time. What we need is just stop supporting this regime.
Yeah.
Stop filling their pockets. Stop making deals with them, backdoor deals with them. Stop the nuclear deal. Bring your ambassadors. threaten your companies to pull out. That kind of thing.
And put the IRGC on the terrorism watch.
We don't need troops. We don't need nothing. Maybe Israel could maybe just for fun, just get IRGC busy somewhere, something.
Yeah, I mean the Israelis and the Iranians have been playing.
Sorry, there's another thing that I was thinking about is like the whole feminist movement, the whole hijab is a choice and promoting it, or the first hijabi basketball player, the Vogue cover and all that. That kind of also blew up in your face now because now we are like, well, hijab is a choice. And we've been saying this, it's a choice because you're in a democratic country. Like, what do you not get through your head? It's not a choice for people or women. So those hijab, like we were on a space yesterday and this woman came and she's like, I support them and stuff, but you have to follow by the laws and rules of the country.
Yeah.
Like all the
150 years ago, I could buy and sell black people in America. Doesn't make it right. It's just
yeah, and this is the new.
And it's not like the feminists have been pushing this agenda of how hijab is a choice. So now it also like I don't hear any of them talking now. Where's Linda Sarsour? Where's Ilhan Omar? Like,
well, that's the thing. That's the other side of it. This is a first revolution against Islamism. A popular revolution against Islamism. It's never happened before in any country. Okay? This is the friggin' first.
So, yeah, and you see...
Iran has a good talent for firsts. The first Islamist state and the first revolution against Islamism.
Yeah,
and
trailblazers. The leftists that have been pushing this culture on us, or diversity is our strength, inclusiveness, and this whole thing, hijab is a choice.
That's going to blow up in their face directly. Yeah.
This February is going to be a very interesting World Hijab Day. Is how that goes. And like the current narrative that they're pushing, the way the regime supporters, the Western regime supporters are doing, is the best shield they have to protect the regime is, yes, it's wrong that they killed Masha Amani, but look, there's some people who didn't stand up for women who are being forced to not wear hijab, and now you're only standing up for women's rights to not wear hijab. That's Islamophobia. This is the only shield they have left.
No, that's too complicated. Nobody can remember. Dumb lefties cannot remember that to repeat that. Lefties need just one short line to repeat. That's way too complicated for them.
It's 2 lines if they rhyme, though. 2 lines if they rhyme.
So
no, but they do that, right? They're seeing this narrative. Oh, so they say to me all the time, they're like, oh, you stand for these women to take off the hijab, but what about like in France where where women can't wear hijab?
Yeah, burkini was a big deal.
Yeah.
What they don't understand is even in Muslim countries, that was such a joke. Even in Muslim countries, people do not hang out with people who wear burqas. People who wear normal hijab do not hang out with people who wear burqas because they know, to their eyes, even a woman who's wearing just normal hijab is a prostitute. Because they're like 5% of the population. And now they're killing themselves for these craziest, most radical,
right? Like it's not like I'm not gonna say that I don't like wearing my bikinis, but now it's become a statement. I wear it on purpose, and I've said too, because every time I put up a picture in bikini, there comes the Islamists, and they're like, oh, you slut, you
it's
this.
Interesting
I get called
how Islamists are all hanging out on your page, waiting for these pictures to get angry about.
So what they say is like, oh yeah, you're this and you're that. So now I'm like, okay, if you're gonna judge me on wearing my bikini, well, I'm sorry, if you're wearing that whole burqa thing, you must be a terrorist, because I can judge you too if you're gonna pass those judgments on to me. And the same thing that you were saying, like when I speak about, because I speak a lot about the women's right, and then Islam gets involved, obviously, because it gives none. So then I have to bring in the prophet, and I've committed blasphemy here and there, a little bit maybe. So then there's people living in the Western countries, Pakistanis I'm talking about, very well educated, and then they're like, well, you should know, you're talking about this, people's sentiments get hurt. So I'm like, so that gives them the right to threaten to behead me? Like, that doesn't give you the right to go and stab Salman Rushdie. And it was so hard for people to condemn it.
I think you've hit the nail here. It's like the intellectual fight we need to have in the West is the fight against moral equivalencies, right? Because the regime apologists, their new tactic, the only tactic they have left to them is, well, yes, Iran's not perfect, but America, Canada is also not perfect. Therefore, it's a wash.
Oh, that was always one of them. Like,
It
yeah,
was
there's
always-
problems everywhere, and it
There's
was like,
problem-
yeah, there's problems,
Yeah.
and there's problems.
Yeah, and this needs to, and sort of we have to fight against the insane moral equivalencies of, okay, like if someone gets a mean comment for wearing a hijab, that's bad. That is not the same level of if someone wears their hijab improperly, they're viciously murdered by the state. This is tomato house made out of candy canes. Like this is
This is not gonna end well for feminists, because this revolution is not going anywhere. Like, this is this is different. Like, everybody in Iran that I talk to says, hey man, this is a whole different thing.
Well, let's talk about the protests. Is it happening in like different cities?
Every
Or, like,
city,
more-
yeah. Cities that
give some reference. I think explain you were arrested at the Green Movement 2009, and just that was like very
that was the
student-led.
basically university student mostly centric protests, and it was controlled, unfortunately, immediately controlled by the reformists. At the time, people still believed that maybe reformists are a thing. Reformists stopped being a thing at 2017 protest, where that was the first time that people chanted in the streets that basically, reformists, fundamentalists, your game is over. Literally, your game is over. Basically, we saw the game, it's done. And but yeah, 2009, it was very easy to squash it, because the lower middle class, the middle class, most of it wasn't with it. Okay. It was okay economic times, kind of better than like the worst times that we had. The inflation was down around like 12-13%, which is fantastic in Iran. And so they didn't, because that's the thing. In Iran, we know what the regime is capable of. We know they've massacred people. So in my opinion, it was just like basically people just revving it up, like 2017, 18, 19. They're basically, when you want to jump over a long distance, you keep going like this, but you're giving yourself a courage, because when I jump, I jump. It's either I land or I die. I feel like this time it was like, we're going to jump, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so it's like you keep pushing people, so they're going to, lash out. There is going to be a point where you're going to get the pushback.
Look at the
so
anger.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so with these protests, what I'm seeing, I don't know if this happened before, but the moral police was getting pretty beat up. Like, people were actually attacking them. They were actually pushing back, So is it something new, or did you see this back?
Oh, this is the first time ever. This is the first time ever. When I was released from prison, I went to, Neda Agha Sultan, the first Iranian girl who got shot in the throat, and her picture became kind of went viral in 2009. I went for her basically 40th day into protests in Tehran. It was the week after Khamenei came on Friday prayer and now officially declared shoot to kill. Said anybody who comes to the streets, their blood is on their hands. And when the people started chanting death to Khamenei, but when the special forces showed up and started tear gassing, people would immediately run away. Immediately. When they would run, like a van of police would come in with their batons and start hitting people, and everybody would run away. This time, I've seen squadrons of motorcycles. I've seen like dozens of motorcycles and maybe 100 police officers and riot forces running away, and people just grabbing whoever they can out of the end of the line. I saw a video of 2 young kids, teenagers, and this generation, man, like, we really gave them a lot of shit, the 90s, and they are, wow.
Aware too, right? This generation, I find, is more aware, because like when we were there was no internet, so see how people are living their lives in other countries, and they
Yeah,
will think, they're not more religious driven anyways because of the
exactly. And they
technology
have
before.
nothing to lose. They look at the outside and
Yeah,
say they see the happiness, and then they look inside. They have nothing to lose,
and
so
then
they're
they're like,
just
why are
going
we
for it.
living like this? Because of
Yep.
Islam, and they're
And
literally rejecting.
yeah, and they haven't seen the era of terror. That's also a thing. Okay, the
Hmm.
regime really emasculated Iranians after the revolution. The first 8 years, it really emasculated. It executed everybody, and the rest were treated in prison like slaves, like horrifying stories. But I saw these two young kids dragging some guy, some Basiji, some IRGC person, and it was like, I got some loots, and it was dragging this guy.
No, I saw a
This
video.
is
So the guy is coming with
different.
a baton, and the guy wasn't scared in front of me. He comes and he holds the baton, and on the other hand, he punches him, and the guy's like on the ground. I was just like, I'm not for violence, but sometimes when I see that, it's like, ah.
This is self-defense, and it's saint anger. This is holy anger. Okay, 40 years of humiliation and murder.
We call it righteous indignation.
Yes,
Is a common.
So now,
and
so since the days, do you see it calming down, or is it getting worse and worse? And I heard that the internet was shut down. Is that true?
yeah, the internet's been shut. Basically, they shut it down completely at nights when the
Okay.
main portion of protests happening, and they want to really kill people. They shut it down so nobody can upload anything. And but to be fair, like Anonymous used to be just a useless thing that liked to play like a dress up. But they would like declare war. A hacker group,
Yeah,
Anonymous. Yeah, they used to declare war on, like, I don't know, Tim Hortons and
Yeah, the corporations. We're gonna fight the corporations. And you're like,
yeah, that guy's grocery store in Moscow. We have hacked it, and it's like, but for this, they went to the mat and they hacked the government's website, the supreme leader's website, the president's website, the state TV's website, the state TV,
Wow.
the central bank, the database of the parliament, and basically published all of the information. And now they're going after the regime's basically agents abroad, exposing them, the money they get, their emails and stuff like that. So, and that was something that was seen in Iran, because they hacked the state TV for a few seconds. For a few seconds, the Channel 3 in Iran was showing Shaheen Najafi talking about how we should fuck up this regime.
No way, really, eh?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You should see the videos from Iran. People's minds are blown. And people saw that. Like, I saw a hashtag on because now it's the talk is the general strike, complete strike. If oil is shut down, if truckers are shutting down, that's it. The regime is done.
And another important thing of this is the great thing about the Anonymous stuff is totalitarian regimes, Islamic republics, they're demigods and they build themselves up to do. And this is sort of like when you see a god bleed, right? Their greatest. No. You're a bunch of hacktivist European people in their basement. They got through and they showed the regime that you're not invincible to the public. So this was a good. I mean, if
the regime was always bragging about its cyber army.
Yeah,
and now their state TV gets hacked. And but yeah, I saw like people in Iran. I saw like a store had closed down in the market for general strike, and it had written on his store. He had written, "This store is closed due to heart attack." Because they announced Mahsa Amini had a heart attack. Due to sudden heart attack, hashtag Mahsa Amini, hashtag Op Iran, which is Anonymous's code. So people are following this.
Yeah, so I have two questions. Like, is the mainstream media, are they covering it? And the second thing, I saw somewhere Elon Musk was going to help up with the Starlink. Did that work?
Yeah.
that working now?
I got
in
a
Iran?
bit of a lecture on Starlink in a Twitter space.
Yeah.
So Starlink, it needs terminals to be activated, so you can. It's like flying satellites. So the satellites are up, and they've changed the code so it's eligible in Iran. But you need the terminals
Yeah,
active in
the
there. And in
equipment.
Ukraine, right? In Ukraine, Zelensky was like, "Yeah, give us internet. We want it here. Let's help." Like you had the military be like, "Yeah, come in." So in Iran, it's going to take a bit longer, but as we've
Because they
outlined,
have to, all of them have to be smuggled in.
it's
All of them.
smuggled in, but the borders are gigantic. Again, it's a kleptocracy.
Oh,
So
yeah.
paying like there's guys for like for
Dude,
pride.
there's video of the head of Iran's judiciary talking on the phone. Anonymous actually published this video, hacked to somebody's phone or whatever. The head of judiciary talking on the phone saying our guys, basically the police in the street, haven't slept in 5 days. They don't have enough forces. Okay, they can't do everything. The borders are wide open now. They're just shooting missiles at Kurdistan in Iraq just to cause some problems for some reason. But they can easily smuggle all of those Starlink stuff in.
Yeah, so it's just going to be a matter of time.
Yeah.
So get back up and
So they do have some sort of internet, because I am seeing different videos
Well,
every day.
during the day, sometimes they basically reconnect it for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes. Or maybe in the morning, like early in the morning, like 3, 4 a.m. a little bit.
And there's also the thing of like, if you're going to completely shut down the internet in your entire country, well, then you've sort of, in the modern day, you've blockaded yourself.
Yeah.
As financial transactions, day-to-day life, like Iran, is run
it's
by...
not complete and utter shutdown. There are areas who have a little bit, maybe limited. There are areas who kind of get it through proxies and whatever. But yeah, overall, it's shut down mostly.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you can't, a full shutdown of the internet, that they would, it's not sustainable long term, is what we're saying, because the country might be run from men from the 6th century, but it is still the 21st century at the end of the day, and you do need some of these services to
well,
to,
yeah,
to
because
get
like if you do shut it down, like we know what happened when we had no internet here for one day for Rogers. Like you couldn't do any transactions, you couldn't use the bank, you couldn't do anything, right? So I want to share this one video with you. I always find that us Pakistanis have to poke our nose in everything. I don't know why, but we always have to poke our nose in every single thing that's happening in the world. So this video came out of UK, where the Iranians were protesting, and the Pakistani Shias, or I would say they are the Islamists, and I don't know if you can hear it, but this is a video that this is what happened there today. Hey, look at that. This is in UK. So yeah. Now I don't know if how much you
God
know
love
that
your
what
people. They are one of the main recipients of Islamic Republic's funds in Western countries. Pakistanis are one of the main recipients. Like in Quds, stay here in Toronto.
Yeah.
If you go, there's a ton of Pakistanis there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The regime
Pakistan
pays
is
good
also
money.
funding a lot of terrorism too. They support the whole Taliban and stuff. But this narrative that I've been hearing from everybody, right, is that US is responsible for that terrorism. It's the West that keeps giving them money, and they want these Islamists to keep going so they can keep, there's a lot of that I hear in spaces, which drives me nuts. Like to a certain extent, I can believe that, but why are you taking this money? These are your people. They're these regimes, or like our army keeps taking money. Like if you look in Canada, all these retired army generals, they live on Mississauga Road. They have like franchises. They're buying islands, and our governments are actually supporting them. Same thing in UK.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot to mention that when we were talking about Trudeau. Okay, it wasn't just Trudeau. Okay, Trudeau didn't open basically doors to Islamists. It was Harper, Stephen Harper. At the time of Stephen Harper, which I liked, any Iranian who had $500,000 in his account or more was welcome with a green card, citizenship, permanent residency. Okay, immediate permanent residency. And I'm sorry, who do you think has $1,500,000 or more in a totalitarian regime in Iran? Who do you think has it?
I have a
All of
guess.
the regime people. So they all came here.
Yeah.
Canada became the second money laundering operation of Iran in the world. Second.
There's a Canada is like, you know, we could give Ukraine a run for its money in money laundering. There's a term
And
for
he
it.
messed up so bad that he had to shut down the embassy. Literally, he had to shut down because the embassy was spending money in universities, starting Islamist stuff openly.
Yeah, it was more than, and then, you know, the communists got in, the Khalistanis. It was not a policy with great foresight put into it. Like, Canada's one of the money laundering capitals of the world. It's called snow washing, which is
I think
Canada's
UK
famous for
is
snow.
there too. I don't think we should step back like in UK. I don't know if you guys have been noticing, like in UK when the Queen died and there was like the funeral going, there was big riots between the Hindus and the Muslims. Did you guys
Yes.
know about? Did you hear
Like,
about that?
That one.
yeah, I've been following this story. It started over like a India-Pakistan cricket match where there's some
Yeah, so I'll give
slogans.
you a little background. Every time there is a game of India and Pakistan, it's like World War. So, yes, so this is what happened. And I think India won, and the people, the Indians, wanted to take out a rally or whatever. And they apparently went through a Muslim majority neighborhood, and they were saying Jai Shri Ram. So I saw this one video where this I'm pretty sure you've seen it. This woman is like, "Are they allowed to say this?" And I'm like, "You guys have been chanting Allahu Akbar for like decades, you know." And I was kind of, you know, I shouldn't be happy, but I was kind of happy in a way because these Muslims come out all the time on the street. The last time they were out was when they that movie that came out, The Lady of Heaven. So they were out at that theater. There was like 600 of them to the manager, and he's like, "Okay, okay, I cancel it." Like his face was yellow. So this is the first time the Islamists actually met some resistance, and they weren't prepared for it.
Oh, they're
You
not.
know, and they got into clashes, and they're like, "What is going on? This is our job. We do this all the time." But they were crying victim, and they're like, "Oh, police has no control." Police doesn't have any control because when they used to go out, the police was running in the other direction. So I'm just seeing all this happening in UK. It looks like the wild, wild west to me, to be honest, right now.
Yeah, this is what happens when you can't have honest conversations about serious topics and intersectionality takes a hold. The Islamists for decades have created a situation where they can go and harass religious minorities under the guise of religious minority power, and the police have learned to, okay, let's not say anything about it. The UK is famous for all these grooming gangs and all that, and then you have this sort of rise of, you know, the you could call it Hindu Tova, right wing Hindu fascism, like. You know, there's now a Hindu equivalent of the Muslim Brotherhood. It is not as powerful, but for decades, you understand Hindus have been walked over, slaughtered, whatever, been pushed around, and you now have a right wing government in Modi who's like, okay, now we're going to stand up and push back. So yeah, there's some Hindus who are crossing the line and pushing back too much, but it's not like they're pushing back against someone who wasn't pushed. Like they're pushing back. Like now you have two people like pushing at this. So there was a lot
Hindus
of,
are beheading people, right? And India,
exactly.
who has the largest population of Muslims right now, you should see, look at India, what they're dealing with. Like after Nupur Sharma's case, there was in 3 months, there were so many people literally beheaded. So they
Yeah, I mean,
know what it's going to be when you get the population gets more and more. And UK, you can see
yeah,
in
this
UK
is
what's
where it's like,
happening.
this is not so much the moral equivalency, but this is like the sort of magnitude equivalency where, listen, there have been cases of, like, India has 1 billion people and there's like a billion Hindus in the world. There have been cases of Hindus brutally murdering Christians and Muslims and other minorities. There's also been cases of Christians murdering, like, again, it happens. There's 7 billion people in the world, right? It's what's the proportion of this right now? And yeah, you're seeing in the UK, and this is now what you're seeing with the Iranian dissidents who like want freedom versus all the funded Islamists, is the politically correct police have lost control of the plot. The only time they're there is when like people protest against mass migration, is the only time the police get on the streets. But you have basically, you know, Hindus have now started to push back against the Muslim Brotherhood forces. The Muslims played victim. They created a bunch of fake news stories about Hindus vandalizing temples. Those ended up not being true. But in response, in the light of day, to cheering crowds, many Hindu temples were vandalized. And you have the classic Muhammad Hijab characters out in the streets saying, like, Hindus are dirty people, they're cowards reincarnated, I'd rather be an animal than a Hindu. All this crazy nonsense. And the hate police, which are online monitoring Facebook comments for transphobia, well, they literally can't do anything about a famous YouTuber with 1 million subscribers talking about like death to all the Hindus. So this is the problem with like a society where it just
But he
breaks
did
down.
receive some pushback. Muhammad Hijab, when he was there, they're making a lot of fun of him because some of the Muslims did say that you are here to instigate and cloud chase and all that stuff. So because we are almost at an hour and a half, I just have a couple more questions. First is that, how do you see, because all this unrest that is happening, how do you see, what do you see happening with the whole idea of Islam as a religion of peace to what we're seeing now, all these riots and everything coming together? Also with the immigration and stuff, like we saw Khalistani referendum happening here, which I don't think we should have these kind of things happening in Canada. So what do you see happening? Is this going to blow up in our government space anytime soon?
What blow up in our government's face exactly?
Like this whole idea, like of taking in people, and like they've been on the Islamist side, right? Islam is a religion of peace.
That has already the blowing
right?
up has already started happening. The blowing up is here, but you just haven't felt it yet. But because there's going to be other blowing ups too, so diversity as a sense is a failed policy.
My last question would be, we know Italy just elected apparently fascist right-wing prime minister. So, and she's a woman.
Fantastic
so
speech. Did you hear it?
What has happened in Denmark? Is Denmark? Yes. And we
Sweden.
saw what happened in France.
Sweden,
we see a trend. Sweden. So we see a trend happening now. We know we have our conservative, and honestly, if you ask me, I don't believe anything any of these politicians say anymore, because they say something, once they get in power, they just kind of backtrack. So what do you think is the future of Canada? Where are we going to go?
Well, I have talked about this before. I don't okay, Danny, you start.
Okay, I'll start. I mean, listen, I think Polyev is going to win the next election. This is the conservative leader. So I think that's it. Now, I think a lot of this sort of populist right-wing backlash, I mean, let's call it. It's no one is allowed to have a significant conversation about mass migration and the effect it's having. And because it's conflated with anti-immigrant sentiment, which is not like Canada is a nation of immigrants and a nation of ideals. There's no problem of bringing in immigrants to a country when you give them integrate. When people come from Pakistan, Iran, wherever, Norway, if they want to come to Canada and be Canadian and, bring some of their culture with them, that's great. But you have to come and want to be Canadian. When you just bring in massive amounts of people at all the same time from the same place with no interest in assimilation and no pressure to assimilate, and if anyone even suggests any level of assimilation, that's the person who's going to get thrown in jail by, the thought police. Well, this is going to cause big problems. So Polyev is probably going to win. Is he going to be this super leader on sort of social issues? Probably not. Don't hold your breath. Now, Canada is lucky in the sense that it is easier to stop a mass migration crisis to Canada than anywhere else in the world, because we are completely insulated from a mass migration crisis. To our west is a literal ocean. To our east, a literal ocean. To the north, frozen nothingness. To the south, the richest country in the history of the world. So the only way to cause a migration problem in Canada is to have the leader of the country, Justin Trudeau, literally forcibly import one. So I do believe the Conservatives won't forcibly create out of nowhere a mass migration crisis. Will they try and reverse the damage? Probably not. Will they stop going along with it?
The system is too corrupt, Mahleej. The system has become way too corrupt, unless you're willing, a conservative is willing to put on his boots and strap in and friggin' get a absolute majority and start slashing all these laws and friggin' shut down this and
And
shut
go after
down
the money. And
that tribunal and shut down this thing and shut down the whole thing, you're headed for disaster.
so
We
here's
are heading that way.
here's
Unless that
my
happens.
analogy.
And that only can happen in a country like Italy that has had corruption for so many years that people are like, corruption is part of it, and people know, they're kind of like, yeah, corruption is like here. So when somebody comes, they know that this is going to be a very different thing. In America, in Canada, it's corruption is kind of a part of the mainstream in a way that it's not open, but it is open. I don't know how to put it, but like the
Whitewashed. It's like
mainstream
there
of
it's
Republicans in America are corrupt, just as all Democrats are corrupt. Okay, so
no, we know the but see what I saw in Sweden, for example, like the Democrats in Sweden were like, oh, we're going to bring all these refugees and everybody here, but they formed their own party, and they actually lost. So I know that sooner or later there is going to be Islamic party coming up here. There is one already, I think, in US. Something I heard about it. So
They
then
tried to
they're going
start
to
one
get
in
into
Ontario.
politics. Yeah, so they are going to try to get into politics. When they get into politics, they are going to start
They're
changing
in the
stuff.
Liberal
And
Party and the NDP and the Green Party.
yeah,
Like,
and I know personally of people, like I literally come across people that are PhDs. I spoke to the lawyer actually on one of the spaces that is defending Shamima Begum, the UK case that she got deported.
ISIS
And I
side,
asked him this question. I was like, if there's a UK has a Muslim party and they want to bring in Sharia law, let's say they win, they want to bring that Sharia law. I'm like, which one would you prefer, the democracy or? And he said, yeah, Islamic law. And then I asked him again, I'm like, right now, what would you prefer, Islamic law or democracy? And he's like, Islamic law. And I come across so many Pakistanis living overboard that they want this Sharia law. And when I ask them which Islamic country is following Sharia law, they're like, none of them. And I don't know what law, what heavenly, this idea they have in their mind the Sharia law is. But
it's like
that
the communists.
scares me. Yeah, it scares me what idea that you have. And these people are here. These are the ones that are actually eating it up, and it just boils my blood, when the hijabis here are like, oh, it's my choice. You want to cool? They're like, try on our hijab.
some Iranian guy on Twitter from Iran actually said something that was really funny. He said, you know that Islam that you're saying this is not? Fuck that one.
Everybody, it has nothing to do with Islam. This
You
is
know
like
the
most
one that you say this is not, that one.
Okay, I have a couple more people, two people here that might want to ask a question, and then we're gonna shut it off like
Okay.
right at 2 hours. So, Afghani Baba, how are you?
You're on mute, buddy.
Very good morning, everyone. Good to see you
Morning,
all.
Thank you. Did you have a question for Sia and Daniel?
Actually, just a general thing. Do Sia Vash, I guess, yes. Do
Yeah.
you believe in Islamic Sharia based on the women rights? Like, do you see any women rights in Islamic Sharia as a Muslim?
No. It's
So,
very simple. Like, okay, in Iran, when we had the constitutional revolution, there was an Ayatollah, okay? Ayatollah Nuri Hamdani. He openly came out and said Islam is not adaptable. Basically, democracy is not adaptable to Islam. Okay?
so,
Same.
Sia, I'm sorry to cut you here,
Go ahead.
but the question is just the second question is just related to the same thing. That if you do not believe in Islamic Sharia, then you must be out of it. So may I know concern you have? Like, what religious do you believe? Are you out of all these things?
I'm
Because
not
I have
a
to, I have to.
religious person.
All right, because I
Yeah.
have to. I mean, clarify these things that
Yeah.
I'm an ex-Muslim, so I
Yeah.
have to be on
No,
the
I don't want
point
to
to make it
label
clear.
myself as ex-Muslim, but yeah, I was never a really, like, my parents were not Muslims, religious. I guess by birth you are Muslim, kind of, but my dad was an atheist when he was like 7. He was an orphan, and he never believed, and they never pushed it on me, and I tried it when I was 15 because everybody in school was doing it. I tried it for a few weeks, and then I was like, you know what, I don't understand Arabic, so I just not gonna do it. And I read up
Right.
on it. I read a lot on religions, and overall I felt like Christianity to a degree has some sentiments that I like, but overall I don't think that's my way. I do believe in a God. I moved on to become a believer in a source, in a God, but I don't follow a path necessarily of a religion, and I
So
definitely
basically, you're
never
saying you
will.
don't believe in any of these gods of the books. Like that's how I am. I'm
He's a
agnostic. I don't
Mormon.
believe
Yeah,
that
the only
Allah.
one
There is
that I kind of like
no.
is the Christian God. I kind of like him because he's nicer. There's a lot of love in there, and unlike Islam and Judaism, he's not a
You
jerk.
wouldn't like it. No, no, you wouldn't like it if you were alive in the Roman Emperor era. You wouldn't like the Christian God then. But
Well,
thank
that was
God that God
because no,
reformed.
that's religion in power. That's religion in any power. Religion in
Yeah.
any power is like socialism. It's like anything that has absolute power. It's gonna be humans are running it, so it's gonna be horrifying. But overall, if you look at it, Christianity has a kind of a better message, I would say. Yeah,
Okay.
but
But
no,
yeah, no,
I'm not a
Islam,
Muslim.
you're so
So,
right. If you Islam
And I
under
always
Islam,
make sure
Islam
to
does
say
not
that
have
I'm
right.
not an ex-Muslim because yeah, I never declared to be a Muslim when I was in Iran. I always found out when it was Ramadan while I was eating something outside, and somebody would go, "Hey, dude, it's Ramadan. They're gonna kick your ass," and I'd be like, "Oh shit," and I'll eat it.
Is it illegal there too? Also, you're not
Oh
supposed to eat
yeah,
out in
they'll lash
public,
you
right?
for that.
That's how
They'll
it is in
lash you for
Pakistan
that.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
Italian.
Amani, you have any other questions? We're gonna move on.
right, just sorry to take your time. You guys are really beautiful and great. But the very last question, it's also related to this, but like you don't follow the Islamic Sharia, you don't follow any scriptures like based on what I just heard of like humanity acts and all. But it doesn't matter to the Islamic Sharia and Quran that if someone is not following, but it's a book that everyone else does. A million of people do follow that. But even though if you do not follow, but your family does this. So what do you think that they are getting out of this book, Sharia or Quran? Do we see any rights for them in a
Oh,
general
absolutely,
idea?
absolutely. As long as they're
Then
not
why they
pushing
do
it on
follow
me.
this?
Yeah. Look, Islam, my main problem with Islam is political Islam, and it's big two parts. Amr b'ma'ruf and nahy is munkar. You know Farsi, right?
I do understand this thing,
Yeah.
but the thing
Amr
is
b'ma'ruf,
that
nahy munkar means basically ordering to do good and preventing bad. Okay? That part is the problem. That's one of the
but
foundations. That's the problem. That removed, everybody can have their own religion. Before the revolution in Iran, people had their mosques, people would go to religious shrines, and there was a disco there that girls were going in there with mini skirts and whatever. And nobody bothered anybody. Actually, religious guys would prevent anybody bothering the girls with mini skirts. And like, it was a beautiful thing. But
But
everybody
see,
right,
we
has
do
their
right.
own
see
religion.
that. We do see that in some of the countries. I've been to Malaysia. I've been to Dubai. You know, some of the countries that you see, they are pretty secular, in certain ways. Like Dubai, I know I was there and I felt pretty safe. The security, the law, and everything is pretty good. I'm pretty sure they still subjugate women to certain extent, but we still have more rights than compared to Pakistan. Well, Pakistan, everything happens behind closed doors. That's what happens
Yeah.
up there.
And about what they get out of it, I do believe there is positives in religion. Absolutely. It's
Mhm.
discipline.
Guess
There's discipline. There's a lot of things, morality for some people. There's a lot of good things in religion for a lot of people. The problem is when it becomes an obligation and a force on others.
Yeah, the whole concept that Islam has to be spread all around the world, and then there's fighters working towards it. That is the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Afghani Baba. I have a question here. Angel from Sky wants to know. That is muta marriage in Iran. Is this a common practice over there? You know the muta marriage, the temporary
Sia knows about
marriage.
this.
Muta?
Yeah, the temporary marriage.
Oh,
In
yeah.
Islam.
Sigha.
Yeah.
We call it sigha.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we call it muta.
Sigha.
So
Yeah,
he's asking,
absolutely.
is it a very common practice?
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing, though. Again, Iranians are not that religious. Okay? In my whole life, I knew one person who had two wives.
Hmm.
I lived in 4 cities in 7 years. I knew maybe 2. I don't remember. But I remember one person who had 2 wives. Okay? Bringing it up is like you're buying hell, because first of all, the society doesn't look good on it. Like, it looks down on it. Like, geez.
Mhm.
Like family marriage, it's not like in smaller towns. It's still a thing in smaller towns and villages.
Like getting married
But
to your first cousins and stuff
yeah,
like
first
that.
cousins and whatever. Not in big cities and stuff. Not like in our family, we didn't have any family marriage. Even our distant, like basically second, third grade relatives that I knew, nobody married within relatives. And
That's apparently a big problem with our community. We take credit for that.
yes, I know.
They
And
always
Sira
come
is the
here.
same.
They always come here on my spaces and they're like, "Hi, sister." I'm like, "Please don't call me sister. You guys marry your own sisters, please don't."
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. Ali Laden is here. Okay, Ali, there's a feedback coming from you. Can you fix that?
Okay.
And 2 more people. So Imroz is here. Hi, Imroz. He's from India.
Anybody's watching? How many people are watching actually? I don't know. I don't
Well,
see
there was
anything.
like, it goes up to like 41, 34. This is an odd time. Usually I go live in the afternoon. That's where because my audience is mostly from Pakistan and India. Most of them are sleeping. It's too early for them.
Oh, yeah.
But later on, yeah, it will get. But I'm trying to go live more at this time so I can attract more of the West crowd, right? And you know how the algorithm works. Go ahead, Imroz. Quickly ask your question, please. Thank you.
हाँ नमस्कार आदाब प्रणाम महलीज जी ये टॉपिक क्या है मेरी तो इंग्लिश पता ही होगी आपको कि
टॉपिक
ऐसी है
हमारा
बिल्कुल
ईरान
बच्चों
में
वाली
है, जो ईरान में जो आजकल चल रहा है उसके ऊपर अगर आप कुछ पूछना चाहते हैं। सिया जो है वो ईरान से ही है, तो अभी हम इस पे बात कर रहे थे कि ईरान में क्या चीजें हो रही हैं। हाँ,
देखिए जो ईरान में चीजें हो रही हैं दोस्त वो बहुत पहले होनी चाहिए थी और जो ईरान में हो रही है वो पूरी दुनिया में होगी अभी हर जगह पर
क्योंकि
होगी
एक सेकंड, क्योंकि इंग्लिश की स्ट्रीम है ना, तो मैं आपको फिर उर्दू की स्ट्रीम में ले लूंगी। अभी मैं जल्दी में भी हूँ, तो अगर कोई
ठीक ठीक
क्वेश्चन है आपका
चलिए ओके
वो पूछिए, ठीक है? चलें, ओके बाय। So we're just gonna add one more caller and then we are gonna.
Okay, Mahleej, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can
you
hear
hear
you,
me?
Ali.
Okay, perfect. Good. So I have actually some a couple of, I think, 1 or 2 questions, and I have a small remark to make to Mr. Sia and all the Iranian activists that are currently there. Look, guys, eventually, whatever is happening right now it was whether it was bound to happen, whether the regime did in foreign policies, whether they did good or bad, inside what the situations that they were creating for the woman, and which is part of the human population, and as well some places here and there for the men as well. This was gonna blow. It was gonna. It's like a you put on a pressure cooker, and the pressure cooker and was event sooner or later, if you don't tend to the pressure cooker, it's gonna blow. And this is what, and it just takes one single incident, like what happened to that poor girl, and eventually it was gonna collapse. Now, here's the thing about you guys, Mr. Sia. I have a question. What do you think? When it comes to Russia and when it comes to foreign policy of if Iran, what do you think of Putin and the Chinese and the Putin? What is your stance on them before I go on to
Okay,
do something
what
else?
is my stance on them, or what's the
Yeah.
regime stance on them?
No. What as an activist, as an anti-regime individual?
I believe China is bound to basically become the world's superpower, and it's going to be a dark time for the world when China becomes the superpower. And Russia is China's sidekick, and its farm, basically its gas provider and oil provider, and it has a lot of nukes, but it has nothing, no economy. China is the thing, and China also controls Iran. So yeah, China is to me the big evil out there.
China is everywhere, even in Pakistan and everywhere.
China owns
Okay.
2/3 of Africa right now. But go ahead. What else would you want?
Yes.
Okay.
Quickly, Ali,
Okay, my friend, let me tell you something. Iran, your people, the Persians, from the 20th century have been shafted from every side, starting with Mossadegh's CIA's overthrow. You got to look at the overall thing. But right now, as activists, you gotta look. You gotta focus on the main thing. This psychotic regime, this psychotic mullahs. Eventually, you're gonna focus on it. Nevertheless, because they're gonna get on your nerves. They've eventually got on your nerves, and you're gonna sooner or later. The time has come where you guys, any sane person would go, enough is enough. To hell with the bullets. To hell with what they do. I want these guys gone. Okay,
well, that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah,
but
we're
then,
all focused on it.
Assuming that you guys do succeed, there are a lot of treacherous snakes, backstabbers all over the place.
Yep.
Iranians have to be very, very careful after that. Again, I don't know if let's see what happens, but you know what? From what I'm seeing, the anger that I'm seeing right now is equivalent to the anger when the Shah was overthrown, which is
it's not even close. It's way worse. It's way worse. Way worse.
Okay.
For Shah to be
so much
overthrown, the revolutionaries had to promise people free stuff. This time, nobody promised anything. They just promised them bullets in the face.
They don't have nothing to lose, right? They have nothing. You have
Yeah.
nothing to lose. You're just like, whatever. Okay,
The
so
revolutionaries
finally,
in 1979 shut down, blocked a cinema with 400 people inside and burned it down. And they said Shah did it. Islamists did it, and they said Shah did it. That's how they got people inside, with free money, free gas and stuff. Nobody came for like freedom and stuff.
okay, we got one last person. He's also our Canadian. So, new atheist, quickly, because I have to end at 2 minutes. Go ahead. You're on mute, new atheist. Sorry,
Hello, ma'am. How are
Go
you?
ahead. I am good. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Yeah. First, ma'am, I'm sorry. My sleeping schedule is kind of upside down, and also hello to my panelists. And I just want to say, ma'am, like, can you do this, like, daily kind of a late night show just for your Western audience, even if it's like a, tiny portion, but like still, the Canadian people, they they have to know like what's going on. They do know, like the immigrant families, they do know, but the Canadian family, they are not that, kind
Yeah,
of
yep.
they don't have that kind of exposure that what's like, going on in India with
Well,
the
I know
ex-Muslim.
that I haven't been doing it, and I've been wanting to do it. It's part of me sometimes gets lazy, part of me sometimes is no time. But Daniel is huge in it. Like he makes lots of videos. And you, do you work with Post Millennial, or that is yours, right?
No,
Is
no,
that
I
yours?
haven't. No, the National Telegraph is mine. I haven't worked with the Post
Oh,
Millennial
okay,
yet.
yeah. So yeah, like he writes a lot of stuff. He reports on a lot of stuff. So he's doing a lot of that work for us Canadians. I get a lot of information from him as well. So I do want to do it, and I know I've been wanting to. I used to make videos. I'm gonna try my best. No promises, but I will try my best, even if it's like for half an hour. I will come.
Yeah,
Do
even
you have any?
like for a daily basis, you can do it for an hour, and that would, like, it will slowly, get pace. But I think, like, as a moral duty, like, because Canada have so much given to us, and especially me, and I would love the people to know like what's going around, and to reach as much audience as we can, as you can, that because you got a platform that you can speak freely, and you are in a country where you can speak freely, and you should really take advantage of this, and even if for an
Okay.
hour, please just
Please,
do,
I'll
like,
talk to you in a bit. I'll talk to you in a bit. I am going to keep my space going. I do have Malika here that wants to ask one question, and I promise then we're going to go. I'll keep my space running. It's just I have ADHD. I can't sit still for so long. And I got to move around. And with the spaces, I can move around, do whatever, have my smoke. Malika, you wanted to ask a question? Hang on.
Reaction to the revolution. I know they have issues like Saudi Arabia and stuff. They have issues with Iran, but would they be supporting this revolution, or do you think they'd be opposing it, sort of worrying about their own regimes being threatened? What do you guys sort of think about that?
Did you understand her question?
So
I
the
didn't
first
catch
half
the
was
She's
very
first half.
quiet. I heard the
Yeah,
second
so
half.
she's saying, what do you think? What the other Arab countries are going to do? Are they supporting
Malej,
this?
I can't hear anything.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I can hear
Okay,
it now.
so
So
yeah,
Well, Saudi
your
Arabia
question.
has been very supportive, openly supporting it.
Okay.
Sounds very nice on its social media account on Persian. I believe in Mohammed bin Salman as a benevolent ruler for his country. He has accepted the mistakes they made in response to the Islamic Republic. He's accepted them. And yeah, I know Khashoggi and stuff, but I don't get me started on Khashoggi, okay? Don't get me.
I have a
Anyways,
picture
Saudi
of
Arab has
Khashoggi.
started.
I
Did
have a
you
yeah,
picture of
see Saudi
Khashoggi
Arabia
with the
started
Kalashnikov.
Saudi Idol? I
yeah.
just saw Saudi Idol. They're starting a music show in Saudi
Yep,
Arabia called Saudi
yep.
Idol.
Yeah,
I was
this
like,
guy
wow.
changed the country completely. And I don't believe, well, they literally sent royal family members to prison because they wanted to stop supporting the Wahhabis. And those people
Mhm.
didn't want to stop. So they literally threw royal family members in prison for this.
Yeah, but then there was a video. Did you not see that video from the orphanage where women again were in burqa clad women were getting beaten up? It was just
This is the
was it a
land
couple of
of the
weeks ago?
prophet. You think it's going to be resolved in 2 years?
No, but I'm just saying, like,
Are
in a
you
way,
serious?
I find he's doing this just because he knows they have to fix their image, but the deep rooted problems they remain there. You know what I mean? That's what I
Well,
think is just to
it's the
show
land of
the world.
Islam. It's the core land of Islam. It's the birthplace of Islam. You can't change it. You can't become a disco. But it
Well, he's
is
opening this.
changing. It's changing in very meaningful ways. And I think maybe in a couple of generations, you're going to see a very different Saudi Arabia.
But I think Sia's right. You got a couple generations, and Mahleej, you're right that it's deep rooted. So problems that are deep rooted don't change overnight.
It's 1,400 years of roots. Give it 40 years.
Praveen, did you have anything to ask before I shut the stream? You're on mute. Okay, I guess he doesn't have. Okay, any last words, guys? Yeah, I'll go with you first, and then Daniel.
Give me liberty or give me death. Last words. Just if you care, contact your members of parliament. They work for you. You're paying their salaries. Call them and tell them, if you don't stop supporting the family members or money bags from these totalitarian states coming here, and don't block them, we're going to actively support your opponents. Threaten them. Okay? Show them that, hey, if you don't condemn the Islamic Republic and if you don't shut down the embassy, we're going to publicize your support of the regime. You have to get your members of parliament.
I asked you earlier, I don't know if you answered this, but is the mainstream news covering the protests and stuff right now? Daniel,
a little bit. As I said, when it got to TikTok, then they couldn't ignore. They ignored it for the first 3 days, 2-3 days, but then they had to really get into it because it became like it's 100 million hashtags.
Yeah, I saw the hashtags.
Yeah.
Like while we were live, Trudeau put out on Twitter a video of him talking about we're sanctioning these people in the morality police.
Morality police.
But it's not enough. And
No,
the single greatest thing we can do, and what you should tell your MPs, C is totally right, is we need to put the IRGC, the entire IRGC, on the FTO, designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Because then that would give us the tools to stop a lot of this money laundering. Because the IRGC controls over 50% of the Iranian economy. So because of that, if we put them as a foreign terrorist organization and all their little banks or whatever stores that are sending money, it gives us an actual tool to say, no, that's now terrorist linked because it's linked to the IRGC, whereas we don't have that right now. So
if that's too hard, come to the event on Saturday in Melasman at 6.
Yeah, come to the event.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely thinking I should come.
With Masha Amani.
Are you going to
if I'm here, yeah. If I don't go back to my farm, yeah, I will be here.
Oh, you're in town right now? You're not at the farm?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm in Toronto.
Stay there. I'm gonna try to make it. I'm gonna try to make it for the weekend because I can actually go up there. I shouldn't really say that because man, I have people trying to track me down. Not only Pakistanis, even the Khalistanis are threatening me now. So it's not just one. I'm like, oh my god. And then the Indians too, the Hindus, because I criticize them a little bit. I get threats from them too, so I'm getting bombarded from everywhere. So, okay, Daniel, any last words from you?
We won't see each other.
Okay,
we won't see each other.
I might dress up as a man because I can do that easily, you know.
All right.
You just have to make sure you tell me the right pronouns. That's the deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Daniel.
All right, gang. Thank you.
Thank you so much, yeah.
Thing. And have a good night.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Nice.
bye-bye.
Great to see you.
Last words, Daniel.
I appreciate it. Well, one, thanks for having me. And if this isn't your issue, then it's not your issue. But if you do care about these things like Islamism, communism, the rights of women, keeping your country safe from theocratic lunatics, everyone has their own, capacity to help, whether it's calling up the MP and doing that, or just get involved. Like you can retweet things with Masha Amani, you can keep the fire going. Because, I would say this definitely is a fight worth getting into. This is said as a non-Muslim, a non-Iranian, just as a citizen of the West. I do think this is definitely a fight worth supporting, and a free Iran is good for the people of Iran, but it's also good for the people of the world. They have exported so much chaos, whether it's you pulled up the video of their proxies who aren't even Iranian attacking Iranians on the streets of London, whether you were one of the citizens of Beirut, Lebanon, when the bomb stored by Hezbollah in that building blew up and leveled the city, while you're an Israeli who's under rocket fire financed by Iran. The Yemen ones was cast into flames because they found these Houthis in the mountain and had them throw a coup and sent the race into civil war by firing rockets at the Saudis. So Canada, there was just 2 Hezbollah agents arrested 3 years ago surveying Pearson International Airport, the IMA bombing. So this really benefits the people of the world, not just inside Iran, but outside, to get rid of the Islamic Republic. And don't be afraid to be called names or whatever, and be aware of the game they play. Be aware of false reformists, false feminists, like moral equivalencies. Just sort of stand strong and
I think it's time to wear those tags proudly. I'm proudly a racist and Islamophobic. But thank you, Daniel, so much. You took out so much of your time. I really appreciate it. I will definitely get in touch with you. We'll do maybe like a couple of these streams again. Touch on these topics. I like to gossip about Trudeau. Thank you so much. You have a great night.
Anytime. Thanks so much for having me.
Bye-bye. All right. New Atheist is still here. He wants to say something. Yes, New Atheist. Sorry. I didn't want
Ma'am,
to keep the
I
guest
just
for
want
too long.
to say but the lovely gentleman went away. I just wanted to know, like, if they have, like, YouTube channel, like, I would have to, I would love to have their
Daniel
links maybe.
is on. Daniel is on. I think he has a YouTube channel. He's more active. I believe I've seen him more on Facebook, but they are all on Twitter. If you go on to, are you on Twitter? If you go on my Twitter, you will see I've tagged them all on Twitter on my latest post. I'll just share here with you. And then after
Okay,
this, I will
ma'am.
also add.
And also,
I'll show you.
I want to shout out to Imroz Alam. Sir, it was me calling. I don't know, like, I called him, but he was kind of like somebody trolling me. So, like, just want to shout out to Imroz Alam. And just like you, ma'am, are you like doing a stream in the morning, like in the afternoon, tomorrow?
Not tomorrow. No, tomorrow's Tuesday. No, not tomorrow. I might come on Wednesday. Actually,
Wednesday.
I might come tomorrow. I'm not sure. But it'd be better for me to do it on Wednesday because Haris also comes tomorrow, right? So I might just come on Wednesday.
Yeah, but just like keep in mind to do this, ma'am, like just for the Western audience, like just for the Canadian people,
right.
Like this would like catch up. I think this is a good initiative.
Well, I started, right? I wasn't even coming live before, so now at least I've started by once a week. And I'll push it more and more. So you can see I posted right here. When you go up here, you will find this is Sia's and this is that's Xerxes. You can also follow him. He was supposed to be here, but he didn't join us. Maybe he was busy. He's really busy these days. So Salman's, and then Daniel is also here. I haven't tagged him, but you can definitely go on my if you go on my thing on my Twitter, you'll be able to find them.
No, I will, ma'am. So I will not take any of you more of your time. You need rest.
Thank
and
you so much.
like
Thank you so much.
good night. Take care, ma'am, and see you soon.
Goodbye. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for everyone that joined us. I know we have a small audience. This is a time people didn't know that I was going to be live. I just scheduled this like 2 hours before, because I was waiting to get a response and trying to get 2 or 3 people together. It can get hard sometimes. I will try to schedule more in advance. But anybody that was here, make sure please share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channels. You can always support me through becoming the member of the channel. You can become a member on Patreon, OnlyFans. There's PayPal. You can support us through super chats, whatever. It always helps the cause. Activists have to also eat, unfortunately. I wish I didn't have to, but anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the show today. I will try to bring more guests like this so we can, talk about different issues. Anyways, guys, I'm going to go from here, but I'm going to keep my space going. If you are on Twitter, you can come join me on my space. because I can walk around and then I can eat and do whatever. So we're gonna keep going on for like another hour on there. But anyhow, mwah, love you all. Thank you so much all for being here. Bye bye.